Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ron, and today we're going to be going over another Deep Rock Galactic build guide. This is looking at the Thunderhead Heavy Auto Cannon. This is the 50 caliber fully automatic gunner weapon, which is a lot of fun to use. This might be the weapon I've used the absolute most in this game. It's hard to say exactly, but I feel like I might have used the Thunder Cannon the most. So I'm the most familiar with this weapon out of, I believe, any of the primary weapons, except for maybe the minigun and the assault rifle. We're going to be going over some builds for it. I have about 2 or 3 builds that I would like to talk about. My first build is going to be the general purpose build when I just go through all of these, and it's just a pretty strong overall build against mostly anything. The other 2 builds would be more specialized towards one goal or another, whether that be more damage, more AoE, whatever it might be. I'm going to be using the site karl.gg/build. This is a free calculator that you guys can go check out. There will be a link down in the description where you guys can go off and try this out. This way it will tell you all of your potential damages, your DPS, your damage per shot, even in this, your time to empty the entire magazine, your projected damage, as well as you can check out overclocks. We won't be going over overclocks in this particular video. Overclocks can change the weapon quite a bit. And the auto cannon has some really fun overclocks to play around with. I have been lucky enough to get, I think, almost all except for maybe one. I'm not sure if I have this one. So when I do get around to making overclock builds, I will be talking about the auto cannon probably pretty quick because I'm the most familiar with this weapon. So let's begin with our tier 1 options. Our first option is increased caliber rounds. This is just 3 more damage, which is pretty nice. Extra damage is always nice. There's no downside to it. We also have high capacity magazine. This doubles your magazine size. So instead of having 110 rounds, you get up to 220 rounds, which is a lot. And I honestly find it a little bit unnecessary, at least with this build. I will say it is kind of necessary with at least one particular overclock. And even then it's not necessary. It just makes it feel a bit better. With 220 rounds, you likely won't have to reload that often, but what a lot of people really like to do with the autocannon, including myself, is run the skill Born Ready, because Born Ready allows you to reload the weapon when it's unequipped, and you can actually reload it faster unequipped than if you took the time to reload the weapon. Born Ready is actually quicker than the autocannon's reload animation. I don't really find the need to have a huge magazine, at least with the base weapon, but it's not bad by any means. It's still pretty good. And then our last option is expanded ammo bags, which gives us 220 maximum ammo. This one is awesome. I love the expanded ammo bags, especially with this weapon, giving you another 2 clips with this weapon, although your clips are 110, so you get a lot of extra ammo with this. It really makes resupplies nice. You usually can just skip every other resupply, at least I tend to, even on high difficulties with the autocannon. Just in case, your scout or your engineer needs it more. Classes that are more likely to potentially run through their ammo, who don't have the biggest ammo pools. This just makes it so you even have a bigger ammo pool, and it's really nice. So I usually go with expanded ammo bags in most of my builds with the autocannon, really. In tier 2, we have the tighter barrel alignment. This makes it so that your base spread is less, because the autocannon starts out with a really large amount of spread and a slow rate of fire when you're shooting it. And then as that rate of fire builds up, you gradually get more and more accurate. It's very similar to the minigun in that way. This just makes it so your crosshairs are much tighter, so you can actually more likely hit enemies. It's still not going to be like pinpoint accurate. It's not going to be like the 0 accuracy penalty on the assault rifle or something. Our second option here is improved gas system. This makes it so we have a faster startup rate of fire and a faster fully, scaled up rate of fire. So once again, you get the autocannon working a little bit quicker, so you can get a little bit tighter spread, and then once it's at that tight spread, you can really fire as accurate as possible. This one is pretty nice, and that does actually increase your DPS, at least to a single target, and kind of to targets around it, because this does have splash damage on it. It increases it by a lot, actually, because you can just keep hammering one target much faster than you normally would. And then our third option is the light barrel assembly. This doubles our rate of fire scaling. So it's essentially like you skipped every other bullet in terms of how how quickly it's going to lessen its spread and get to where it's the most accurate. This one's really nice too. I really enjoy this one because you're going to be missing less shots because you might only fire a couple of rounds, outside of where you were really hoping them to hit. And then by that point, you're going to be more on target. I usually go with the lighter barrel assembly. I really enjoy this one. However, pretty much all of these are really good options. You can pick any of them, and it will help out the autocannon to some extent. In Tier 3, we have Supercharged Feed Mechanism. This makes it so, once again, we get a higher maximum rate of fire and a higher minimum rate of fire, so we can scale up the rate of fire just like with the improved gas system. This one's just an increase over that, which is pretty nice. We have loaded rounds. This makes it so we get 2 more area damage, so we just add 2 more damage to our splash area, which is really nice. You don't need to be the most accurate with the autocannon. You just need to hit generally where the enemies are, and the splash damage will help with that. Or we have high velocity rounds, which gives you 4 more direct damage, which is a pretty big buff to this weapon. It makes it so it hits even harder. This one, I kind of switch between, because all 3 of these are pretty good. I tend to go with the high velocity rounds, though, just to have that extra stomping power. In Tier 4, we have 2 options. We have hardened rounds, which makes it so you have 400% increased armor breaking, which is great. It makes it so if you're hitting targets directly that are armored, you'll do more damage to them. Our other option is shaped rounds. This makes it so that we have a larger area of effect radius. So if we're hitting something directly, it will have more of a splash damage to other enemies, as well as if we're not hitting enemies and we're just hitting the ground next to them, there will be even a more of a chance of hitting enemies nearby. It's more forgiving, I guess. Both of these are pretty good. For my general build, I usually go with hardened rounds because I find that I don't really need the bonus radius to hit a lot of the small enemies. The autocannon is great against killing small enemies regularly. With this, it's better at killing large enemies. Things like Praetorians or Oppressors. You can really hammer them with this and do a lot of damage to them. Both options are really good, though. I've used both, especially with different overclocks, and they both work just fine. In Tier 5, we have Feedback Loop. This makes it so you get 20% increase in damage once you've hit your top rate of fire. So as soon as you are pretty much as accurate as you are going to be with the autocannon, you'll also be doing the maximum amount of damage you can, increasing your overall damage by 20%. Pretty nice. We have Suppressive Fire. This makes it so there's a 50% chance to inflict fear to any enemy within a 1 meter radius of the impact. This is really good. This can actually spread fear very fast, even if you're just hitting near enemies, which is great. So even if you're targeting one large enemy, you still have a chance of fearing small enemies around them. And fear is pretty useful to just cause the enemies to flee away from you so that they're not trying to munch on you. And then our last choice is damage resistance at full rate of fire. So once you reach full rate of fire, you have 33% damage resistance towards everything. That's pretty good too. Having 33% damage resistance towards everything makes it so on the higher difficulties, you can get away with being more risky with the gunner. Especially if you're very good with your shield, which isn't too hard to use. Just throw out your shield, just keep firing at things, or fire at things until enemies are right up next to you, and then switch to your shield, throw it out, and then just keep firing, because you can still get away with that from the reduced damage. I typically go with Feedback Loop just to have the most damage with the autocannon, but sometimes I will go with the damage resistance or the suppressive fire. All are pretty good options with this, but this is usually the general purpose build that I go with for the autocannon if I'm not running any sort of overclocks. Just more ammo, faster, or getting up to a higher rate of fire quicker. More damage, armor breaking, more damage. Pretty straightforward. The second build I would recommend is just the higher rate of fire build, which you can go with the larger magazines for this because that does help it quite a bit. You don't run through ammo as fast. Well, you'll run through your overall ammo faster, but you won't run through your clip as fast. So you can kill really just about anything. You can kill crowds very quickly with this, or single enemies pretty quick. In Tier 2, you would go with Improved Gas System. This just makes it so you have a higher rate of fire, as well as Supercharged Feeding Mechanism, so you even have a higher rate of fire. You almost double your top rate of fire, which is pretty crazy. Armor breaking or shrapnel rounds work just fine. Either way, if you want to have more splash damage, or if you want to have more single target damage, It's your call. And then you can go with either suppressive fire to try to fear as many enemies as possible, even more damage with feedback loops so that you can be dealing the most amount of DPS possible. Or you could potentially go with damage resistance just to not die. All of them are pretty good options with this. And then the last build I'd recommend is more of an AoE build. So this is more used for killing a lot of small enemies rather than large enemies. It still can work against large enemies, no problem, but it's not going to be as effective as some of the other builds that we've talked about. So this is, once again, going with expanded ammo bags, going with the spread reduction. You can really go with any of these if you want. It's your call. Going with loaded rounds to give you more area damage, shrapnel rounds to have a larger area to hit things, and then once again, you can really go with any of the tier 5s. I usually go with feedback loop when I'm using this, just so that I can have more damage once I'm fully revved up and firing. This one's pretty strong against crowds of enemies when they start coming in, especially if they're tightly grouped at a distance. With certain maps, especially on high difficulties, they tend to send in a ton of enemies, and this can just really soften them up a lot for the team, if not just outright kill them. So this has been super fun. Hopefully you guys found this helpful, useful, something, entertaining maybe. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. That way you get notifications whenever I post any of these videos. Next time we're going to be looking at the Engineer's Stubby, which is a bit of a strange weapon. I'll say it feels very strange if you're not running overclocks on that gun. With overclocks, it feels pretty good, but without overclocks, it's a little bit strange. Anyway, thank you guys so very much for watching this. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you guys all have a great day. I'll talk to you next time. Till then, stay cool, and bye.